people, they don't like mediocrity. They don't like like midwits or something. They
Mm-hmm.
don't like, okay, they like some kind of moderation, meaning like some moderators, especially if there are like some smart moderators, or we discuss quite often here like smart regulators. It's maybe the same word, but they don't like mediocrity, and they don't like midwits, or like what the meme of like whole monitors, like a certain personality that is kind of like just trying to monitor the conversation of
Mm-hmm.
others, and like telling them what to say, what is allowed to say, what is not allowed to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, but on the other hand, like people want some kind of like smart regulations in the marketplace, like banning of bad actors, giving rating to other actors. So, but it should be like opt-in. It should be like voluntary, and especially like it should be transparent and fair. So like everybody should get the same kind of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's say, because it's not only about ideology. Like let's say on social media you can have like, don't know, let's say a very nice ideology, but your behavior might be really bad. It's just like it's that's behavior is like one axis or one dimension, ideology is another dimension. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's
Yeah. Jakub, thank you so much for joining me again at Mtambo's This podcast.
hi Duke, I'm happy to see you again.
Happy to see you too. Well, Jakub, Jimmy Baxdale famously said that there are only two ways to make money in business and on the internet, by bundling and unbundling. Balaji Srinivasan added a third phase of rebundling. Can you explain this concept and how it applies to the internet today?
Yeah, so just to start with the unbundling and the bundling. So yeah, so imagine like you have the music album like on a CD, and then you unbundle these songs into individual MP3s, and
Mhm.
then you rebundle them again into like music playlists, like some streaming service. And so they often people say like, tech bro, you just invented a bus or something, like with some, I don't
Mhm.
know, some through Uber and some experimentation. I don't know, like it's like reinvented the bus, or you reinvented, I don't know what, but clearly, let's say streaming, music streaming, it's quite different from a CD,
Yeah.
because I don't know, it doesn't get scratched or something. The
Mhm.
CD gets scratched, or it's just like it has different properties. So like, okay, you have these like bundling and bundling, and then okay, bundling meaning, yeah, you put some services together, and so let's say, or you have like newspaper and news, and you unbundle them into individual tweets about politics, and then let's say about politics, and then you rebundle these tweets into like a Twitter list or Twitter feed. And so it's like okay, it's another version. It's not the same as a newspaper. You can, I don't know, in theory, like, or with some Web3 decentralized media, you can like pick your own algorithm, or you can have like your Twitter. Even today, you can have your Twitter list, and you can just like see the people on that list, like what are they posting. So
Mhm.
and it's a bit different than the newspaper, because let's say you can combine either people who are not like legacy media commentators, or you can combine various like commentators from various media into like one list, and you can follow them all in like one place, and so you wouldn't get this experience from like, let's say, newspaper. So yeah, but like you can think about this bundling, unbundling, rebundling, also like in a way of like a centralization, decentralization, and recentralization. So Balaji says like he's in favor of recentralization, but he thinks that's like the least popular word currently, because the establishment the old establishment favors centralization and like filtering or keeping having the hold on the choke points, like being able to control like the discourse, control the narrative, and who is platformed and who is deplatformed. And let's say the crypto crowd favors decentralization, so like everything should be decentralized and stuff like that. But then Balaji is kind of a pragmatist, so he understands the importance of also like what you could say like Hegelian synthesis, or you would call it like he calls it like V3, like the third version, or like some kind of fusion. You can call it like some left-right fusion of various approaches, or you could actually, a nice word for it is like a crypto fiat bridge, so like crypto to fiat bridge, something like that. So therefore, like when he says like he favors recentralization, he also means like something like network states, like a V3, like that might be viable in case like the V2, like the nation state, like suffers like some problems, like some, let's say, in the same way as in Venezuela, people are using like Bitcoin, Lightning, or I don't know, in Lebanon they're using Bitcoin or Tether, like to just like pay for like basic services. So in the similar way, let's say, you might actually the need for network state actually might arise even in among regular folks, among the so-called powerless, like people who are like mainstream normies. They might suddenly become powerless because of some external situation, it could be either the regime changes, within the country, and so let's say, or people have to flee and they want to regroup somewhere, like as refugees, and like build some kind of community, and they can, like this idea of network states, and the forms that precede the network state. Network state is like the final form. It's like the big corporation or something, but like you have the startup society, the network union, network archipelago. But the core concept behind this like approach of Balaji to the go-to society strategy, it's not like go-to market strategy, but the go-to society strategy of Balaji. I read a nice blog post about it today, so I like this kind of term. So it's like treating it like a startup, like but the core concept here is that it kind of makes the community computable and composable. So you can compose like various communities. It's like a DeFi, like taking the DeFi example, but you could also compute like, let's say, you can have like not like you have like a vertical kind of like within the companies, you have like references. Let's say people are asking your former boss like who was how good employee you were, in your former so you get the reference from your boss or something. But but this kind of would give you also like the horizontal kind of references, like basically where you can, let's say, practically like collect some kind of badges or award badges to your peers in your community, like in your startup society or network union, and you can take part at at some like digital daily digital actions, some completing some tasks, earning, burning, learning, burning calories, learning new skills and new things, and earning some money for completing some tasks. Like writing articles or coding some new websites, some new projects. So these kind of ideas, but you get like some kind of community resume. So it's not just like a company resume, but it's like more kind of also horizontal, not just vertical, but it's also like more gradual and long-term kind of thing.
I think. Yeah, I agree with you, Jakub. It's interesting to see how technology has changed the way we consume content and how companies have. Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's This podcast. My name is Jakub Mtambo, and the following is a conversation with Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Wezesha DAO and an author of Wisdom Enterprising. In today's episode, I will be talking with Jakub Simek about his article, Bundling, Unbundling, and Rebundling, under the daily Balajisms series. And now, dear friends, here is Jakub Simek. Adapted to these changes by unbundling and rebundling their offerings. According to Balaji, the internet increases variance because it allows for peer-to-peer interactions. How does this affect businesses, and what are some of the examples of this in action?
Yeah, right. So, for example, with Uber rides, you get like much shorter Uber rides, but also much longer Uber rides than a regular taxi ride. So some people use it like in the US to travel between cities. Like 100, I don't know, 200 kilometers or something like that. And you can also just travel around the block with Uber, and it's like, it's no problem. Usually the old taxi would be kind of like quite angry or wouldn't take you, to just a couple of 100 meters or something. But with Uber you can. So it's like a practical, just measurable example. But then you have also these more kind of not poetic, but like example of, let's say, a 20-year-old billionaire, like some startup founder who sold his or her startup, and they had the liquidity event, as they call it, when you get the cash. It's like the liquidity event. Yeah, it's a nice word. I like it.
Yeah.
There should be more of this liquidity event. So, okay, but you have like the liquidity event as a 20-year-old billionaire startup founder, but then you have also like a 40-year-old guy playing video games in the basement of his parents. So that's like the another example how the internet increases variance. And yeah, you can get many examples like this. So yeah, it's because as you said, because it allows for peer-to-peer connections, and also like people, they don't like mediocrity, they don't like like midwits or something. They don't like, okay, they like some kind of moderation, meaning like some moderators, especially if there are like some smart moderators, or we discuss quite often here like smart regulators. It's maybe the same word, but they don't like mediocrity, and they don't like midwits, or like what the meme of like hall monitors, like a certain personality that is kind of like just trying to monitor the conversation of others, and like telling them what to say, what is allowed to say, what is not allowed to say. But on the other hand, like people want some kind of like smart regulations in the marketplace, like banning of bad actors, giving rating to other actors. So, but it should be like opt-in. It should be like voluntary, and especially like it should be transparent and fair. So like everybody should get the same kind of treatment. Like let's say, because it's not only about ideology, like let's say on social media, you can have like, don't know, let's say a very nice ideology, but your behavior might be really bad. It's just like, it's that's, behavior is like one axis or one dimension, ideology is another dimension. So yeah, I mean, it's, it's like, yeah, it's something like, it's also a good example, like that also we discussed before. Like, but let's say Uber is a smart regulator because it gives rating to both,
The driver
drivers and
and the
also,
passenger.
yeah, passengers or the users. But it kind of can track the behavior of drivers on a basis of seconds. But like, let's say the Fiat, the taxi medallion version of taxi inspection, they have like an annual, like once a year inspection. So it's like orders of magnitude difference here between like, yeah, this smart kind of tracking through GPS, through, I don't know, many other ways how you can track drivers and get the feedback of customers as well, and so
I think,
yeah, that's just example. That's one example.
I think that's a very interesting point and example, Jakub. But Balaji talks about the helical theory of history and how progress happens on the z-axis. Can you explain what this means and how it applies to the evolution of technology and society?
So it's like a corkscrew, or like a helix. So some people say like the history goes in circles, like they believe in some kind of circular history, which might be a bit strange maybe, but it's like, you have this kind of periods where let's say the civilization is on the rise, then you have the fall of the civilization, and you have like various versions of these like cyclical kind of theory of history. You have the right version is like, I mean, the right wing version is like the strong men create good times, good times create
Weak men.
weak men,
And then
and the weak men create bad times, and the bad times create strong men. So yeah, just to complete the circle. I almost got lost there, but you have the left-wing version of like some zealous revolutionaries. I don't know, created the glorious revolution, but then some kind of bureaucrats or some corrupted leaders corrupt the revolution, and so then the people have to rise again. And so it's like it goes in circles. And an interesting one where also Balaji fits is maybe the libertarian kind of version, where he gives a one liner that a libertarian founder ends up rebuilding the state, which means like you build like a small startup that feels almost like a family, but then when it grows into like a big tech company, you end up like with bureaucracy, like with many layers of management, and just like kind of more impersonal kind of processes, just like people following processes. But then what happens, it's like a clock, it's like going like that, and at like you reach 12 hours or something, and then again there is some dissatisfied employee number, I don't know what, 100 or something, or 10 of the former startup, and then they leave the company to start their own startup, so that's like the cyclical kind of thing. But then so the people generally, also like to generalize, people are kind of the same in the history, throughout the human history. People don't change, which also kind of means like when you still can get these cycles, like when there are good times, people behave a bit differently. When there are hard times, they also behave differently. They have more like zero-sum mentality, but they're kind of predictable. But like what changes is technology, like the progress, the technological progress opens some new dimensions of new possibilities, like the things that were not possible before are currently possible. You can get much more of things, let's say, when they are faster. Like I don't know, imagine like if Balaji talks about Facebook thread as a good example, or Facebook post, like that if you want to replicate like Facebook post like with postcards or with like a regular like snail mail, like that it would be like prohibitively expensive, like I don't know, you post a picture and then but in the offline version you would have to like send the picture, the postcard to all your friends.
Yeah.
And when they want to like it, they would, I don't know, they would just like they would just like draw a like on the postcard and send it back to you. But then also they would need to, I don't know, they would also need to see like that who else liked it, they wouldn't have to like send it to each other, the copies or something like that.
Yeah.
And then if one person wants to comment there something, so they would have to share the comments to all the friends who can see the post. Yeah, so
Yeah. Okay.
so it's like yeah, so it's like, I mean, with technology there are many many possibilities that were previously not possible. So Balaji talks about like how all the ideals and ideas are with us since the dawn of humanity, or since the beginning of humanity, but like what makes them feasible is new technology. So
That's
this is
true.
like one example.
That's true. Yeah, that's true, Jakub. And it's interesting to think about how technology and society are constantly evolving and how they can influence each other. Well, as we wrap up our conversation, in your article, you also mentioned the potential for India, Israel, and Singapore to play a role as an international intermediates. Can you expand on what that might look like and how it could potentially impact the future of global politics and economics?
Yeah, so like more generally, it can be also Kenya and maybe probably Slovakia as well. But it's more generally, it's like, in the last century we had this term, the third world, and it was kind of connected during the Cold War. It was connected to this like the so-called non-aligned movement. Like, so you had countries like Yugoslavia there, India, even Cuba, and some of them, they were like kind of more pro Soviet, but they were still like non-aligned, or calling themselves non-aligned, like kind of not wanting to be part of the Western and or the Soviet bloc. They wanted to be independent somehow. And what you could get like in this century is actually kind of the reversal, the flippening, in a way that the third world actually might end up being the first, because of this future scenario, kind of sci-fi scenario that Balaji calls the American Anarchy and the Chinese control, which is kind of just like extrapolating the trends that happen in the US cities like currently, like the crime wave and the homeless, plus the fentanyl addiction crisis, homelessness, and the fentanyl addiction crisis, like the opioid addiction, deaths, and many problems like these, like the political polarization, riots, protests. It can, it's like kind of like crypto. It goes like in, you can have like some pump and dump,
Yeah.
or some kind of like yeah, like something goes to the moon and then it crashes. So it's like hard to predict these trends, like or sometimes you have like something like yeah, some major event, and you think that this will like continue, but then it's maybe just the end of an era and something new is beginning. You never know. But like Balaji kind of predicts like this these trends in the West will continue, these trends of decentralization, or maybe like more it could be like decentralization sounds like neutral, but if you want to be like have a negative spin on it, it's like more chaos basically.
Yeah.
And there are some like concrete examples. Like I wrote or and also tweeted about like one example. There is like some US military base. It's quite a big one, and there was like this article in like prestigious media. It wasn't just some kind of hoax about like some, I don't know. It's like 80 people died over 1.5 years connected to that military base because of some like in violent death. There were like some drug related kind of gang deaths, and there were like some strange kind of like some rivalry, maybe some romantic rivalries or something. But the statistic kind of was like, okay, it's like a forget, it's like kind of Fort Bragg or something. I forgot the name of the military base,
Yeah.
but it was like 20 something times more likely, if I remember the number correctly, for the soldier to actually die within the US than overseas. It's like it was like much more dangerous to for them to be actually in that base than overseas, like serving their country. Which is just like a metaphor for a more general kind of statement that the US is like still a superpower, and nobody will come to their shores to attack them or something like that. They're like really protected geographically. They have like kind of okay neighbors, especially like they don't have any rivalry between them, or of course there is some crime, let's say, from like organized crime from Mexico, and of course some also like maybe issues, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not like Russia and Ukraine. That's what I mean. So,
Yep.
but how the US can implode by the internal polarization and in just like internal kind of infighting. So that's like the American anarchy. Yeah, sorry,
But
you wanted to say.
yeah, but just connected to the recent event of the UFO, like China flying the balloon.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't follow it that closely, but I know that they spent some expensive equipment to shooting down some kind of like, I don't know, balloons or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Also, it happened to China. They shot, I think it was a drone by US, but they said
Okay.
like it was, an unidentified,
UFO.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
UFO object. So yeah, so and it's like they're playing games. Some of the
Yeah.
people are saying like they're both playing games, like pretending these are UFOs, but they're
Okay.
trying to attack each other.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, just trying to see like who is, I don't know,
Yeah,
who has stronger nerves or something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
But the Chinese control scenario, just like to get back to these like two sci-fi, I mean, it's this, the scenario is called like American Anarchy, Chinese control, and international intermediates, and re-centralized, this like the long night scenario. But it's like, yeah, like digital authoritarianism. And so like basically Balaji says that maybe most of the countries will not like to join either camp, like, and you can have like countries like that are actually quite pro-tech, quite developed, and have like good, yeah, digital, I mean, they're like digital countries, like Singapore or Israel, or maybe even India as well. And they might create like a third pole, or like actually they might embrace crypto. It's like something like like because they might not be like the number one or two, so they might, let's say, not be like Microsoft or Google, but they might embrace like open source, so like they might embrace like these global open source global and open protocols like Ethereum or Solana, and thus become like global hubs for global commerce. It's like the rule of code, not just the rule of law. Because like we saw, and we discussed it also before, but we saw that it's like as Balaji says, the number one rule of the rule-based order is that the US is making the rules, so like you can get like unbanked also as a country. And so most countries will probably not like want to be in like too much, let's say, especially if the US kind of implodes. I mean, it's just is a future sci-fi scenario, but like if there is some like internal infighting, like let's say between between Democrats and Republicans, or between like some new axis of, let's say, Bitcoin maximalists versus some statists, like the green dollar versus the Bitcoin orange. Some kind of like a lot of tensions, let's say, because of inflation. If like imagine the US, even like Venezuela and Argentina, they were quite serious and quite actually prosperous countries a couple of decades ago.
It's true.
And then they became basket cases, and they kind of remained like that for decades. So it's not like, I mean, there is no guarantee that if you are like rich and powerful, you will stay rich and powerful. And it's also like, let's say, if you are like super old, you can't run as fast as when you were like 20 years old or 10 years old. So it's like, and you might wait like this is like a nice example by Balaji, like if you are like, I don't know, 8 years old, you realize you can't lift as, I don't know, as heavy weights as you did, and you might just like wait for your your grandson or something to be stronger than you are. So it's like, so it's something similar. Like it might take then generations to recover once you like once you lose this kind of advantage. And of course Balaji is like not against US or something, and I'm not as well. I mean, but he's like the post American. He's not like anti-American, but like post American, because he says like, I don't know, like countries like Israel or Singapore or Kenya, they're like post British, like they just like people there like don't spend like all day just like hating Brits or something, but they just like but they don't feel like they're part of that empire anymore or something, and they just like want to they just want to go on with their own lives. So
that's true. That's a bold statement. Yeah, that's really interesting perspective. It's clear that the intersection of the technology and politics is becoming increasingly complex and multifaceted. Thank you, Jakub, for joining me at Mtambo's Desk podcast. And be on the show.
Thank you, Duke. Take care and see you soon. Thank you for discussing these ideas with me.
Thank you. Thank you too for always committing yourself to discussing these ideas by Balaji Srinivasan on this daily Balajisms series.
Yeah, we are slowly going to the end of our first season. So I'm looking forward for the second one.
Me too. Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed listening to Mtambo's Desk podcast, don't forget to subscribe, give this episode a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.